I'm Becca Bartlett. I'm a singer-songwriter from St. John's, Newfoundland. I'm 21 years old right now, and I have been in the music industry since I was about 14 years old. Music is an incredible form of art, just like all forms of art, because it's a way of, expressing yourself through sound. It's a pretty crazy thing to be able to put together a combination of sounds, to be able to, pluck a string or hit an instrument and create something that makes people feel and can convey a message through words and through melodies.
My name is Glenn Tizard. I'm an AV technician and I play bass in a band called Chevy. The way I usually enjoy music is through CDs. I grew up in the 90s and that was the main avenue to get your music.
The rise of streaming services has impacted my career in a very interesting way because ever since I've been in the industry, streaming services has kind of become the new way to listen to music. So when I was younger, it was cassettes, CDs, but ever since I've been releasing music, I've distributed to platforms like Spotify, Apple Music.
I'd say the reason I don't have one is I'm not sure I agree with the model. In a lot of ways, it kind of feels wrong to me. It feels like a free grab almost. For that reason, I haven't got into it. I try to buy all my music on a medium, either vinyl or CD. I feel like I'm supporting them in a more direct way.
Streaming services make it so much easier and so much more accessible for any artist to put out their music, which is incredible because, back in the day, you would have had to go with a label, they would have had to go to their distributor and put out records and CDs and everything for you. But now you can kind of do it on your own. It makes it incredibly easy to be an independent artist. However, this also comes with a lot of pitfalls for artists because it makes it very hard to make a living from it.
I think the reality of the platforms, streaming platforms, I probably wouldn't have enough experience to know if it's better or worse. I just know that it's very different. The way that it seems you have to do it now is it's almost like an avenue for exposure rather than selling units. Back in the old model, it would be about making a record, selling the record, getting the money or paying your advances back or whatever. And now it seems that the streaming platforms are not going to be much of a revenue stream, and that really it's an exposure tool to lead to other things.
I do not feel like streaming platforms fairly compensate artists for their work. On Spotify, they pay artists 0.003 cents to 0.005 cents per stream. So every time someone goes and listens to your song, you get less than a cent. So in order to even make $1, people have to listen to your songs about 300 or so times. So streaming is not really, unless you're like, someone who's really big in the industry and has millions, billions of streams, you're not gonna make a living off of streams. You might make enough to buy a smoothie or something in like a year.
Seems to be that you put your music on there and it's almost like a promotion tool rather than a revenue stream, really. That's what it seems like. So, and then that could lead to, once you get exposure and familiarity with an audience, that is what leads to things that make more money.
It's really unfair because people pay so much for these subscriptions every month. I think I pay like $11.99 or something for Spotify, and yet that money all goes to Spotify itself while they don't pay their artists.
What I would like to see in streaming platforms is probably better rates, probably a more direct way of how money gets distributed. I find streaming does make everything hard to stay. Is the retention and the staying power is hard to achieve because it's so come and go. It's so easy, come and go.
Streaming is super beneficial in helping artists, any artist, be able to get their music out easily. However, streaming also makes it very difficult for artists to make any money, obviously. You're not making what you would if people could only buy your music through CDs or records or buying your merchandise. Streaming also goes hand in hand with social media, where in order for people to find your music on streaming, they're not finding you through record fairs or walking into the store and seeing your CD. They're finding you from you showing up on their TikTok page. So it really requires you to be a consistent content creator in order to try to generate streams.
Back then, it definitely was a different model, but living and being a musician in Newfoundland, it's not only the business model, but you're also battling geography, trying to crack markets, because you could do well in Newfoundland. You have to crack the mainland or to get a national audience, which I think coming from Newfoundland has always been a difficult thing to do. I think you could be successful in Newfoundland, but I'm not really sure if you could 100% make a good living off of it.
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges I face as a musician is where I'm an independent musician, you kind of have to wear every hat. Unless you have a label, you kind of have to be a manager. You have to, apply for grants, festivals, everything yourself. You have to be a content creator now. You have to try to be an influencer. You have to reach out to producers. You have to find, a lot of people produce their own music as well. So you kind of have to be able to do it all, and it makes it hard to just focus on your music and just creating when you have to be a business person as well. It's kind of tough because instead of just being, a musician, a creator, an artist, you're a product.
I could see me subscribing to a platform, and I think I'd pick the platform based on how well they treat the artist, I think. My favorite one might be Bandcamp because it's more direct and it pays better and it's not as huge as some of the other ones. I agree with a lot of criticism of the rates and the return for artists on those platforms. And it's so hard to change when something is started and established and rolling.
While it really opens doors for musicians, what you're walking into through those doors isn't necessarily the fairest thing to us. Now with streaming services, with the internet, with social media, you can actually do yourself. An independent musician can now have complete ownership of what they do and do it all themselves with no barriers. With everything that's kind of going on in the world right now, people will realize the need to kind of fairly compensate artists.
Being able to listen to music everywhere and anywhere, I think is where it's gone, and it's obviously good, but at the same time, you don't own it anymore. It could go away at any moment. Again, I come from the era where you collected your music and you own it.
And I'd also love to see more people continue to turn to physical media, continue growing your record collections, supporting local artists. Go out to a record shop and buy, a CD you haven't heard before, a record you haven't heard before. Even though I know it's so easy for people to have songs at their fingertips now, there's something so special about actually owning this physical media of music, and then it's also really helpful to artists.
And the support that the actual artists get from this reality, I don't think is the greatest. I think it's greatly important to show your support, but I guess that's what you're kind of fighting against, because you're fighting against a love of who you're listening to and who you want to support.
People are realizing how unfair these corporations are to artists and are turning to buying vinyls again, buying CDs, buying merchandise, going to concerts.
Live performances as a part of your art I think it's essential. I think that is what it is. Me personally, I love playing live, and that's that is the pinnacle, really, for me. What you do with your friends or whatever, you're doing something as a unit, pushing air, as we say, together and making this force. So capturing it on record and trying to show it to people is awesome, and that's how you get people interested in it.
Live performance is the way that I primarily make my living in music. I really believe live performance is an extremely important aspect of being a musician. The way we connect with people through music is sitting in front of them with an instrument, with a band, and sharing our message.
Getting a response in the live performance area is kind of exhilarating, I find. Having people talk to you afterwards about how they connected with it or thought it was so great and like that is kind of a very high point for me. I try to appreciate that as much as I can, because life is pretty fleeting, and you got to enjoy it while you can.
So in a perfect world, there would be streaming services that give musicians fair compensation for their music. I don't want to be a solitary figure in the music industry. I don't want to be above anybody else. I don't want to succeed in spite of other people. I want to create a community of musicians and of audiences that just, love music.
My best intentions end with could be better, when all I wanted was to make you proud, but the voices get so